Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Fayetteville, Lincoln County for our Bicentennial final day. And good to see everybody, and such a great day to be here. And this is a project we started 3 years ago, and this is our monument we got here, and it's just going to be great, something to do for everybody around here, so enjoy yourselves. Won't hesitate. We'll move on with the program. Reverend Ennis.
Would you bow your heads with me as we go to the Lord in prayer? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Sure good to come together to see such a good turnout. To thank you, Lord, for 200 years. And I know there's been a lot of labors and labors of love, the committees, our mayor, Bevels and Shelton, many others, and those that have worked so hard for this day. The psalmist said, "This is the day the Lord has made, and we'll rejoice and be exceedingly glad," and we are glad. Now, Lord, we don't know how many more years we'll have here on this earth, but if the next 200, if that's how long, would be as good as these first, I think for Lincoln County it would be a great time. So, Lord, until you're coming again, may we carry on. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. 3 years ago, we formed a committee to do something to celebrate our 200 years of history here in Lincoln County. And I want to thank each one of the committee members that worked so hard and put in so many hours to make this come true. And we'll talk about the monument a little bit more later, but we're so proud of it. Right now, we'll have the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wasn't that wonderful? And that was the Simply Fabulous group. We thank them so much. And now we'll have a pledge by Boy Scouts Troop 326. Ronnie Scott is the Scoutmaster. Ronnie?
Let us all join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first speaker and County Mayor Peggy Bevels will come and address the crowd, and we want to thank her so much for all her assistance in this project. Peggy?
Thank you, Jack. Happy birthday, Lincoln County. Tell you, Can you believe it? 200 years ago, our legislators decided to come and together and they established this county. Now, we have carried on the mantle, and I'm hoping we have 200 more years. I don't know that anybody here will be seeing it, but you can imagine what it might be. We know that the white man was not the first to occupy Lincoln County. The Indians were here. And we have an exhibit at the museum that shows evidence of this. And there's a coin with Caesar's inscription that proves this. Also, DeSoto spent the winter here in 1740-41. So you can know that there was other people here before the white man ever got here. The Elk River, as you can see by the map there, pretty well divides this county equally. We don't want to call it north and south, east or west. It's just there, and it's been something that's used from the day one. The Indians used it. Our farmers, our people that farmed used it to carry their animals and their produce on ferries down the river. They had the barter system. It's been so important to us all through these years, and now it's one that lets our people enjoy and our visitors enjoy canoeing and rafting down whenever they want to. So we've got things here that we're very proud of, and we're proud that we've been able to keep it to where people can use it. You know that we had the stone bridge, and that was a monument in itself. A replica is at the Stone Bridge Park that you can see. All the things that we've had basically have meant something to everyone. The Stone Bridge was something that a lot of people did not want to see torn down, and I don't think there's one person that did want it, but it happened with the waters and all the things that occurred. It didn't have a keystone. It's one of those things that weather takes care of for us, but at least we've got something that shows that it was here, and we have our books that tell us about all the things that happened there on Elk and on the Stone Bridge. Railroad came to us in 1858. I'm not going to tell when it left, but it came from Deckard to Fayetteville, and then it went other places. But that was something that I know that the people that lived here was so proud to see occur. And I know we would probably like to see it reoccur. Our county's always been known for its people. We have wonderful people. We have important people. And that means every one of you. You are important for this county. We hope that you enjoy your visit here, the ones that are visiting. Hope that you enjoy this monument here. As Jack said, there's been many people that worked on this monument. And actually, I don't know what Jack and Randy's going to do now that this is completed. They've had so many meetings, and they've gone so many places, and they've done so many things. But this is evident of a group of people working together to make something that can be remembered for years to come. I had 2 committees, and they are from the student government committees that's in the office that I've had the last 2 years. They change each year. Folks, those children worked on this. They gave a lot of thought to it. They worked together, not just with the committee, but they worked together. And at this time, I'd like for them to hold up their hands, if they would, please. Don't look at each other to see if you're going to hold your hand up. Hold it up. Oh, well, good. Hey, up. Okay, thank you. You just don't know how much I appreciate you. You know, sometimes we think that our children are maybe needing a lot of help, and they do, and that's what we're here for. But when you start working with them, you can find out that they are absolutely some of the best students that you'll ever come in contact with. The first courthouse that was built cost $35. It was temporary, made of logs. But you know, even then, they had a place for the courts. They had a place for the people that had to come to court, the judge and the people that sat in the gallery, plus the people that were witnesses. We still have that. In this one, it states that they had a plank for people to put their feet on. That was nice. Now, this is the fourth courthouse that's built here, 1971, and it is such a monument to the people that built it, plus to all of our county. It's a wonderful place. We want you to come and visit. Our doors are always open to anybody that needs help or anybody that just wants to go through this. One of the things that happened was that they got Ezekiel Norris gave 100 acres for this square. Guess what? He found out that he was kind of led into it. That other people, he was told that other people was going to make the same offer. When he found out that they didn't, he sued the county. Imagine that. He got $700. So he was also known as the first white settler. Would like to remind everyone that all the capsule version I've given, that you can fill in the blanks by going to over to the bandstand and buying the history books that have been put out. You can find out a wealth of knowledge in those books. Tomorrow's 4th of July. Please remember our military. Know why we're here. Know why we can be here. They've done a lot. They left their families and everything to be able to help keep us free. And we all know that freedom's not free. But remember them, please. And again, happy birthday, Lincoln County. God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor Bevels. Did you know Lincoln County officially became a county on January 1, 1810? And on this day, we would be 184 days old. And you can imagine what was here at that time, just trees, I imagine. Hadn't had time to build that $35 courthouse yet. But anyway, and the city of Fayetteville became a city the same month in January of 1810. And our next speaker is the mayor of Fayetteville.
I'd like to say welcome. I'm Gwen Shelton, the mayor of Fayetteville. I was asked today to come and give some fun facts for Fayetteville because this is a celebration for our county, and Fayetteville sits right in the seat of Lincoln County. I first want to go on and say thanks for all the people who made the committee up so we can celebrate today. It was a long journey for each of these individuals, but I will say that I'm here to enjoy the festivities today, and I hope each and every one of you will too. Fayetteville was founded in 1809 here in Lincoln County. It was named after Fayetteville, North Carolina. Some of us have always wondered, is that true? That is a true fact. Some of the earliest residents lived in North Carolina before moving to Tennessee. Fayetteville's namesake was Marquis de Lafayette, a general who fought in the United States American Revolutionary War. These again are true facts here about us here in Fayetteville. Fayetteville perhaps was the second seat here in the United States that was laid out by a legal mandate to put a courthouse in its seat. I think that's great for us. I want to say, as a resident, I think it's a beautiful place to be. The city of Fayetteville has elected 24 mayors. In 2006, it elected its first female mayor, and that's myself, Gwen Shelton. Now, we're going to journey around the square and look at some fun facts. On the east side, over a century, there was a bank there, and the bank was half of the front doors of Carter's drugstore. I didn't know this, and this took place well over a century ago. The Tigress building, which is on College and Elk, it dates back in 1850. For most of a century, its third floor was Lodge Hall, first for the Masons and then for the Old Fellows. That's where they would go. In the early 20th centuries, an Elliott dry goods department store, Javis, occupied part of the building that we know as the Municipal Building. Also, Rutledge and Aikens, another dry goods store, along with Coons. Coons is the first store I actually remember being there. I don't remember any other ones, and some of you may. More fun facts on the south side. The corner building was an antebellum building built in the early times from a silversmith, Mr. Ringo, in the 1800s. The block was dominated for a two-story opera house, which was the Bride Hall, where traveling theater troupes and opera companies used to perform here in Fayetteville, Lincoln County. A fact I didn't know. On our west side, the Dragonfly, which is a beautiful building that's been restored, is the oldest building on that side of our square. And what some of you may not know, in the 1800s, it used to be the Tip Top Saloon. And we had a saloon on our square. Most of us probably remember that hill being called Fire Hall Hill, but before the fires of 1855, it was called the Tip Top Hill after the saloon. Magnolia Mall, it has been department stores, barbers, and butcher shops. On our north side, which Massey Realty now is stationed there, is where the first telephone rang here in Fayetteville, 1895. It was Hughes Douglas Smith and Grain Company, another great fact I learned. Hair in Motion is located where the first white barber took his first stand to cut hair. Later in the 1900s, it's believed that Fayetteville Electric Company opened up its first office. Again, these were all just fun facts I had to go back and research, because as you look back, sometimes you only look at facts that is during your time. I hope each of you enjoyed the travel back through the 1800s, and when you walk around our square, maybe you can remember the Tip Top Saloon and what went on, or the traveling operas that came before us to perform. I want to say thank you, Lincoln County. God bless everyone that's here today in our whole county, and God bless the United States, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know who our senator was in 1810, but I do know who our senator is in 2010, and we welcome him to Lincoln County. Senator Bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Representative Pat Marsh. It's a pleasure to see you here today with us. And Mayor Shelton, Mayor Bevel's, thank you for allowing me to take an opportunity to be here with you today. Such a beautiful day for all of us to come out to see such a beautiful, beautiful opportunity that has been put on the courthouse lawn here for us to remember for the next 200 years. This is truly, I was so impressed when I walked up the sidewalk, Mayor, and saw this. There was a lot of work, but really nice design, and I'm sure this is something the citizens will be proud of for many years to come. For over 200 years, there's a lot of history here in this county, and I've had the opportunity to serve you at the state capitol for the last 8 years of those 200 as your state senator. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. This weekend, as we are celebrating two very significant milestones in American history. First, we are honoring the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which is probably one of the most important events in human history. This document has allowed freedom and democracy to be spread around the planet. As we celebrate this day, we should constantly be reminded of the sacrifices that our men and women in uniform have made for us to enjoy the freedoms that we have here today and are making to continually to protect our freedoms. This morning at 10 o'clock, we had a unit that just returned from Iraq and landed in Smyrna, Tennessee. At 3 o'clock today, we have another unit in neighboring Marshall County. The National Guard unit will land at Smyrna today, returning on such a great weekend. I feel it's very appropriate that we bring them home for those troops who've been fighting for our freedoms on foreign shores. Just 1776 was when that declaration of our forefathers put together, and only 34 short years later, this county was founded. Lincoln County's history runs deep within our state. Just as we are grateful for our nation's founders, we are greatly appreciative of the founders of Lincoln County.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm trying to get you some extension there.
As we go back to our daily routines, let us live our lives that constantly remind us and that bring honor and dignity to not only our country, but to our state and well as our country. And as you go home tonight and eat those hamburgers and hot dogs and shoot off your fireworks, take a moment to say a prayer for the freedoms that we are currently enjoying here within Lincoln County. Say a prayer for those freedoms, that we have the opportunity to worship as we wish. And thank you for the opportunity to be with you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is City Alderman, Ms. Dorothy Small, and she'll come and address the group. And I was going to say she's one of our great, well, she is one of our great nurses up at the hospital. So.
I hear you get that in there. Again, I'm Dorothy Small, City Alderman. It's my pleasure and an honor, to say the least, to say a few words here at Fayetteville Lincoln County's Bicentennial. I'd like to thank Mr. Tyree and the committee for asking me to speak. The history of black ancestry in Lincoln County is difficult to chronicle. There are very few written records, and searching the genealogy of the records and census records gives me much of the information. History has, in the black community, however, been transmitted from one generation to another by the oral tradition. The census of 1810 shows there were 2 free blacks and 720 slaves in Lincoln County. In 1860, there were 53 free blacks and 6,847 slaves. Only 16% of the people in Lincoln County owned slaves, and they had an average of around 8 slaves apiece. Today, the black population is roughly 26.2%. This will be realized further with the ending of the census in this year, 2010. Slaves were used in agriculture as domestics and also used as skilled laborers, artisans, construction gangs, and workers in iron foundries and textile mills. The old stone bridge was completed in 1863, and its structure was assisted by slave labor, Lincoln County. John Mark and Patrick Flannery, the architect and construction manager, sent a message to the Lincoln Journal expressing their thanks and appreciation to the gentlemen of Fayetteville and vicinity who had assisted them in the effort to lay the foundation of the piers with the hiring of their slaves. Under the command of General Ormsby Mitchell, this bridge was crossed en route to capture the railroad at Huntsville, Alabama. Sherman marched his whole army from Memphis to Chattanooga over the Elk River by crossing this bridge, a bridge built with slave labor, Lincoln County. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued January 1 in 1863. A. Greer and his wife, Eliza Greer, both of Lincoln County, sold to 3 black men, John Greer, Lewis Blake, and Wade Hampton, a piece of parcel for the purpose of erecting a public school and public school and a house of worship. This parcel sold for $25. Other parcels were sold in 1887 for the same purpose. Thusly, in early 1900s, black schools sprang up in every district where black people lived. These early schools served as churches and schoolhouses together. All schools were elementary. High schools had to be attended for the blacks in Shelbyville and Pulaski. In 1931, with the land purchase and a trade of parcel with the city of Fayetteville, the groundwork was laid for the Lincoln County Colored High School. It was a cooperative effort of the city and county boards of education. The Rosenwald Fund contributed to this effort, and it was led by a group of concerned citizens. Starting with the high school year in the fall of 1932, Lincoln County Colored High School was officially opened. Mr. Jackson was named its first principal. In 1950, a new high school was constructed for the blacks and opened at West End High School. Mr. L.B. Tinsley was principal from 1950 till 1962. Following him as principal was Mr. A. Delbert Dumas from 1962 till 1966. Schools were desegregated and blacks allowed to attend Central High School in 1966. Of course, this marked the closing of West End High School. Much of the artifacts and memorabilia was lost or discarded. Fayetteville, Lincoln County is rich with black history. Many educators, civic leaders, business owners have paved the way for many to follow. In researching, I found it be too many and too numerous to mention them all. There's also the danger of leaving someone out. However, to mention a few for this occasion is a must. Dr. L.M. Donaldson. He established his first hospital here in 1936, then another in 1952 when the first was destroyed by a tornado. Recently deceased, Mr. L.C. Curtis, an educator and civic leader. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. L.C. Curtis's brother, Mr. Lewis Curtis, educator and civic leader as well, but most importantly, a World War II veteran. To have him here in this time with other veterans of many wars warms the heart for what he's done for our people and for our country as a whole. I'll close on the fact that business owners and professional people of color have served Fayetteville, Lincoln County in many capacities. As civic leaders, professors of education, teachers, as military men and women, barbers, plumbers, rock, brick, and concrete masons, and as pastors of our churches. All have contributed in many ways to the last 200 years that let the generations that follow them know that they too, as people of color, can make and become a part of history. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Small. Our next speaker, native of Lincoln County, our Lincoln County historian, and a good friend of mine, and the one that got us started in this. You can thank him. Jerry Mansfield, would you come and tell us a little bit about Lincoln County? A little bit more about Lincoln County.
As we leave here today, after this gathering and the sun goes down and becomes quiet on the courthouse lawn and silence descends right here on this very spot, as it has for thousands of times when gatherings like this took place. We go back to our homes and everything returns to normalcy here on the courthouse grounds. Those thousands of gatherings started, of course, with the first meeting and gathering to organize, but how did that happen is what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. You couldn't settle in this part of what was to become Tennessee or North Mississippi or North Alabama eventually because of a treaty that actually the government was honoring with the Native Americans. That treaty prevented any settlement, any cabin being developed in this large area. And to enforce that, they actually built a fort down toward Florence, what's now Florence, Alabama. And to supply that fort, They came through what became Fayetteville, Tennessee, crossed the Great Indian Crossing where Native Americans had crossed for thousands of years right below Dr. Mike Hamilton's office, and made them a road across country. They had to build it fast, and they didn't have time to fill in the swamp or the low places, so they went around them. Wasn't a lot of problem with speedy buggies or speedy horses back in those days, or people running off the road. That road eventually became the Fort Hampton Road and was termed later as Highway 110. So as you travel Highway 110 and wonder why in the world would the state of Tennessee, Senator, build such a crooked highway, they didn't. It was given to them after it had been developed. Fort Hampton didn't have to last long. With 1806 opening up the territory, our ancestors came in here from mostly North Carolina, some from Virginia, and other parts of the country had already been settled. Many of them had served in the Revolutionary War. And many of those had served at Yorktown under General Washington and under his second in command, General Benjamin Lincoln. So it was their desire, I'm sure, that this county would bear the name of the second in command when General Cornwallis surrendered. Actually, the general that actually took the sword of Cornwallis was General Benjamin Lincoln. General Benjamin Lincoln lived to know that Lincoln County had been named after him. He lived to be, at that time, the ripe old age of 77. And in May of 1810, passed away after the Tennessee legislature, which was housed then in Knoxville, Tennessee, had named this county for him. As soon as we're settled, a major event takes place in this part of the world that is described in the history books in usually a very small section, the War of 1812, which had many fronts and which Lincoln County played many, many important roles in. General Andrew Jackson, who was heading up the militia at that time, came to Fayetteville and crossed that same Great Indian Crossing and amassed some 2,000 volunteers and riflemen across the river where we now have Walmart, Taco Bell, and that on the left-hand side, and most of it was encompassing where the highway actually sits. Gathering there for several weeks as a result of an Indian raid that had been spearheaded by the British, by the warring traditional Creeks to attack a friendly fort in south central Alabama. Fort Mims was basically annihilated, and the message came for volunteers to come to the defense of the North Mississippi Territory / Alabama. And all the volunteers in this part of the country met with Jackson and others. We became known, as time goes on, as a volunteering county, not just a state. We became known as the Banner County, to gather around the banner when times were needed for volunteers. That one action in the War of 1812, which eventually accumulated in the January the 8th, 1814 defeat of the British forces under General Pakenham at the Battle of New Orleans, that launched General Jackson's presidency, and it changed history. Everything that happened during that event changed history. The pathway of Sam Houston involved in that particular expedition. The pathway of David Crockett was involved in it. And we all know that without Houston and Crockett, I don't think Texas would be Texas today. Those people that came through here and went on, I think we need to remember today because they played an integral part of history, particularly in the state of Texas. I'd like to mention the one Dan Wagner from Mulberry, Tennessee. Tough as a pine knot, decided to leave Mulberry and go out to Texas, and his descendants now own the largest ranch under one fence in the state of Texas and have ever since his inception. He didn't like oil, as we do today. We got a problem with it, you know. But he didn't like oil, he liked cattle, and so he fenced the oil pools off on his ranch and actually decided that we were not going to utilize it even after it had a value. He was a cowman. Dan Wagner from Mulberry, Tennessee. John Neely Bryan came through here and his mother birthed him here in 1810, and he witnessed the gathering of Jackson and others to fight the Creek Indians down in Fort Mims to revenge Fort Mims. John Neely Bryan's a name you just don't see or hear much, but he founded Dallas, Texas, and he was born, bred, and educated and practiced law here in Fayetteville, Tennessee. It's warm out here today. There's so many things that you can read about your particular county and the integral part it played in our nation's formation. Those are only a few. Don't be hung up on dates. Get involved in the individual stories. Go see the monuments on the courthouse. Study about the turbulent times of the Civil War and find out who Captain Robert Blackwell was. I challenge you to do that, and I'll repeat that again. Put it in your mind. You got to find out and come back and maybe tell Mom, Dad, and Granddad who Captain Robert Blackwell was, and particularly who Sergeant John Massey was. They're on this courthouse ground, at least Massey is. We live in a very special county. We have offered a lot to our nation. We will continue to do so. Each and every one of you have played a part, whether you came in here from North Carolina with your ancestors did in 1810, you got here last week to join up with the Redstone Arsenal workforce. We're all Lincoln Countyans. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. You mentioned Benjamin Lincoln, which our county is named for, and he just happened to be here today and wanted to say a few words. Benjamin Lincoln.
Greetings, my fellow Lincoln County citizens, and thank you for being here today. Many are probably wondering, well, why did Lincoln County get named for General Benjamin Lincoln? Well, if you go back with me to the days of the Revolutionary War, you have to remember that not all the colonists fought for freedom and oppression from Great Britain. Only 1/3 actually was directly involved in fighting for our freedom. 1/3 remained loyal to the Crown of England, and sad to say, 1/3 didn't care which way it went as long as they could sit home and not have to do a doggone thing. But I am proud to tell you that the settlers that came into Lincoln County were that 1/3 that took an active part. They fought for our freedom. They were that part that suffered and bled and fought in all the battles you read. Valley Forge, Brandywine, all the battles through the South. And in fact, Brigadier General Benjamin Lincoln was soundly defeated at the Battle of Charleston, South Carolina. And you might think, well, why did he become a hero? Because one man had faith in him. That man was General George Washington. He knew what kind of a man Benjamin Lincoln was in his heart, a man that could be trusted and would never give up. He succeeded again at the Battle of Yorktown, Virginia in 1781. And in fact, when the surrender was offered, Lord Cornwallis was highly insulted that he had to surrender, so he sent his second in command, a British general by the name of O'Neill. Well, General Washington said, well, if he's going to play that, I'll do the same. So he sent his second in command, General Benjamin Lincoln, a good and great man. And we can be proud that our county is named for him. And I thank all of you for being here, and thank God for Fayetteville and Lincoln County. God bless you all.
Thank you, General Lincoln. We have another lawmaker in our group. Mr. Pat Marsh, would you like to come forward and address the group a few minutes?
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be your representative in Nashville. And I would like to echo happy birthday, Lincoln County and Fayetteville, and happy birthday, United States of America. What a great day. We live in a great country. This is probably one of the greatest cities and counties in the state of Tennessee, and Tennessee is by far the greatest state in the USA. I was born in Lincoln County in 1949 in Petersburg, and moved to Howell, and I remember very fondly many days in the second floor of the KP building, Bagley & Bagley Insurance. All my uncles and my granddaddy worked up there, and I sat up there on the couch many days and looked out over the square. Later on, my daddy was with Lincoln County Bank on the north side of the square. I would come in after school and go to sleep on the couch. I've spent many times surrounding the courthouse, and I've had very, very fond memories. My aunt, Norma Bagley, many years ago, entered a contest to name Fayetteville, or to have the slogan for Fayetteville, and I believe she is the one that came up with "Where Tradition Meets Tomorrow," and what a great slogan for a great county. Just this week, I was reading the Elk Valley Times and seeing all the communities on the great monument here. I read with great interest all how the communities got their names, how they started, who started them, where they came from, and finding out that they had schools, they had general stores, they had doctors. I never knew all of that. We do have a great tradition. Thank you very much for coming, and happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. Let me say a few things about our monument before we conclude everything. First, let me thank all the committee members, the student advisory group that helped design it, the Mimosa Monument, Pat and Ken. We appreciate all you did, and for the beautiful landscaping, Jeannie and Mark Hyde. We thank them for such a beautiful job they did. We definitely want to thank our contributors that made this possible. And the city and Fayetteville did contribute towards it, but the main cost of this monument and everything was not county taxpayers' money. It came from contributions from our banks, Frito-Lay, the Heritage Book of Lincoln County, and the main part will be the profits that made from the pictorial book, which you can still purchase, and that's paying for the main part of the project. So, but again, thank everybody, and when our next on the schedule is Miss Deborah Qualls.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. This is my country, land of my birth. This is my country, grandest on earth. I pledge thee my allegiance, America the bold, for this is my country to have and to hold. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in truth may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Let old acquaintance be forgot. Keep your eyes on the grand old flag. God bless America, land that I love. Stand
Thank you, Debbie. That concludes our ceremony here. I want to remind everyone we have the pictorial books on sale and the medallions and the coins and the pins on the south side of the square. But enjoy the festivities and everything we have to offer today. And thank you for coming.